So we sort of touched on this maybe in the chat at the beginning about what to do if you notice a restriction in your body between one side or the other, and is it that one side is more open, or is it the other side is being restricted? But also, as well as that, quite often for many people, there seems to be one body part that's not cooperating. You know, it doesn't want to open.
Yeah.
I've met yoga teachers that know what they're doing, and they've got tight hips in external rotation, shall we say, and they've had them for 20 years, and they're doing openers and they're doing stuff. Everything else has changed, but that's not changing.
Maybe at that point it's just bone shape.
Bone shape, you think?
20 years, sincere, dedicated, daily practice, and it hasn't changed?
Yeah.
What else could it be?
Well, sometimes I take those people and I do like a P&F stretch with them, or post-isometric stretch.
Uh-huh.
And
it changes?
And it changes.
Okay.
So, but then they'll be back, you know, it just seems like do you go for the emotional muscle relationship thing? Could it be that's where they're hiding their secrets? Somebody said to me once, that's where I must be hiding my secrets.
Yeah.
And I thought,
yes,
sometimes
definitely.
it's hamstrings, just like rock.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of those.
Just not changing, but everything, the hips are opening, the upper back is opening.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like everybody's going to have something they're going to run into. It's a good teacher, that part of your body.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can do a particular technique and change it, then that would say to me, then no, it's probably not bone shape. There's got to be, something else going on, and maybe they are hiding a secret. Maybe it's some emotional, spiritual, karmic thing that has stuck in their body. I definitely see relationship between emotions and body areas and body parts. That, for sure. Put people in certain positions and they'll just cry.
Yeah. Seems to be a lot to do chest, hips.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hips are quite naturally tight from ambulation, from walking.
Yeah.
And it's what needs to open. I bring everything back in anatomy to, basically you want to open up your spine. And in order to open up your spine, you have to open up your hips and your shoulders. So you got to get through the hips and the shoulders so you can be in your spine more comfortably, more fully, etc. And of course, hips and shoulders give us trouble because that's, the shoulder is how we manipulate the world, and our hips is how we walk through the world. So they're naturally going to run into trouble and be tight, or, hips tight especially.
Well, you mentioned it just now, spine, opening the spine, and I remember reading this. So I was reading you sent me a link to the nutation, counter-nutation, sacrum thing, and in that there was a discussion about this business, but there was also somebody mentioned about the fact that...
This business? What is this business? You went... Oh, the nutation, counter-nutation business. Oh.
Yeah. There was also somebody who mentioned about the fact of too much upper back opening, potentially flattening the natural kyphotic curve of the upper spine, the thoracic spine. We do quite a bit of, if you're doing prep work and stuff, we do, for those people that are tuning in, certain parts of the spine are more adept at flexion extension, i.e. lumbar, thoracic, more rotation because of the superior and inferior articulating processes.
Right,
One of the things. So is it right for us to try and increase the amount of extension available in an area which is designed basically more for the rotation? By doing...
The simple answer is yes.
Okay.
The more complex answer, which we could do 3 hours on the spine, which we're not going to do. If you don't put any emphasis or energy into the upper back, then it means all you're doing is working with your low back, and therefore potentially wearing it out.
Energetically in the practice.
Physically, literally.
Yeah. No, I didn't. Yes, I didn't mean.
Sorry.
Yes. Yeah. Energetically in the practice, we're thinking about spreading the load, but I'm also talking about doing specific openers for that upper back in order to increase movement there to take some of the stress away from the low back.
Yes.
To create more of an even curve.
Well, it's never going to be even anyway.
No.
So with that, to that degree, definitely not. Most people from the average daily life,
Yeah.
you've got plenty of room to go in your thoracic spine to bring it into upright posture, and then even beyond that. There's room to go. And the other thing is the way those facet joints,
Yeah.
that's like a
Orientate.
nice, the way they're oriented, with a back bend, they just slide towards each other this way.
Mm.
It's not like in the lumbar, when you try to rotate the lumbar, eventually they compress this way.
Mm.
I mean, it happens at some point there as well, but it's sliding a bit first.
Okay.
And so, I don't have unreal expectations about opening the upper back, but certainly it's possible. You know, you've got 12 joints there.
Yeah.
If it is the way I say it is, if you gain 1 to 2 degrees of extension in each one of those, multiply it by 12, that's 24 degrees.
Mm.
That's the average. And each one won't move that much necessarily.
Yeah.
The ones closer to the lumbar will move more than the ones up in the middle, and because of the way the spinous processes pop
Yeah.
off and how they touch
Yeah.
potentially.
Yeah.
But still, you want to distribute the load. And that alone is the reason to work on the upper back.
Mm.
You know, then you got the shoulders following right behind the upper back,
Mm.
which have a very difficult time going in that direction
Mm.
usually.
Shoulders. Well, we're on shoulders then.
We'll just jump right to shoulders.
Why not jump
Like
to
I said, shoulders,
Yeah.
tight shoulders lead to not
Exactly.
getting in the spine. Tight hips also lead not getting in the spine.
How do we work that external rotation? Have you got any? Because we need that to take our arms back.
We need it.
Yeah.
It's
But
true.
it's difficult to get it in there even with openers to get that movement going. It's much easier to work on
Internal.
medial rotation.
Yeah. It's true. Our body isn't really designed to very powerfully go into external rotation. It comes down to 3 muscles to externally rotate our arm.
Mm.
2 rotator cuffs and the back portion of deltoids. That's it.
Mm.
Everything is designed to make it go the other
Yeah.
way.
A lot more muscles pulling
Yeah.
it this way, isn't it? And
Yeah.
big muscles.
Yeah, big muscles. So part of it might simply be doing the back bends.
Right.
That's part of it. I like to tie it into many more things than that. There's a very particular action required that since we jumped off from back bends into
We're
shoulders.
coming back.
What's that?
We're coming back.
We're coming back around for a moment, yeah, because there's an arm movement in back bends that most people don't allow to happen
Okay.
because of the tension that you're
Yeah.
describing. They
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
But you can do that action in other places where there's less pressure and tension going into the joint.
Mm-hmm.
So down dog arms are the same potentially as back bending arms,
Mm-hmm.
right?
So you can work on the external rotation. They're mixed with the medial rotation and the lower arm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be that way anyhow. Yeah. Which ties into working with your serratus anterior. So we're not far off the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
We're still in the spine somehow. But engaging the serratus in a way that brings the shoulder forward already increases the amount of external rotation.
Yeah.
Slightly, but it does. It brings it around in a different way, and then it gives you access to latissimus in a different way, which is probably the number 1 restrictor for the back bends. And externally rotating the arms. Because when you lay on your back,
Yeah.
and you put your hands like this, you're already engaging serratus
Yeah.
to bring your scapula around the front more.
Yeah.
If that doesn't happen enough, the hand doesn't go flat. Or if your triceps is tight, your hand doesn't go flat. So having worked it in other postures, the same arm position, then there's potential for there to be more when you get to back bending.
It's coming.
Yeah.
Perhaps we can we? No, you're going to say something.
Yeah,
go on,
because
go on.
you can't look at back bending shoulders without looking at the front of the legs that's
Yes.
allowing the pelvis to move.
Yes. Psoas, hip flexors.
Psoas, hip flexors. I'm really big at the moment on.
You love psoas.
Well, I do love my psoas
us.
a lot.
Tell us about psoas. How it's going
I-
to change the practice?
But I was going to say rectus femoris, I think, is a
Yes.
really big one for,
Because it crosses the hip, whereas
because
the
it
others don't,
crosses the
whereas
hip, and
rested.
it pulls on the front of the pelvis
Mm.
and makes for that restriction in the low back often in back bend, which then prevents us from pushing further with our knees to allow us to work into the upper back and the shoulders. So it's this huge chain of joints. I mean, back bending is a huge discussion with the spine. I think from the beginning we're thinking about it wrong anyway.
Go for it.
Well, we're calling it back bending. What's the Sanskrit for back bending? Yeah, rather than front opening. Because the posture's name is Urdhva Dhanurasana, which is upward facing bow. There's no implication of, there is an implication of bending your spine, but when we say back bending, we focus on squashing the back bend instead of focusing on opening the front.